Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of DCT's The Icing on the Career Cake. And icing our cake for us today is Ashley Johnson. Thanks for joining us all the way from
Lowestoft.
Yeah, now that's a different location. We don't normally have people from Lowestoft. So how did you meet Diane?
I met Diane through a networking event, an online networking event.
An online networking event. Okay, but you're not from Lowestoft originally, are you?
No, I was born in Brighton.
Wow. So what made the move? What made you move from Brighton to Lowestoft?
It was my parents, actually. Last year of school. It wasn't ideal for me, but they moved up here, and then I've been up here ever since.
Oh, right. So one of your parents' work took them to Lowestoft, did it, or?
No, they went to Great Yarmouth. I ended up in Lowestoft, but it's very close. But they used to go on holidays to the caravan parks, and they decided at one point, looking at the prices of houses up here versus down there, that they would make their holiday place their home.
Wow.
Save on costs, I guess.
There you go. Well, there's a story right from the beginning.
Yeah.
I know it would have been difficult for the time of year that you went, but are you glad you moved? Do you like it better where you are, or?
Yeah, I do prefer this area to Brighton because I'm more of a countryside person rather than a metropolitan person. I do prefer looking at going out to the river, for example, or in the woods and having a walk in the woods. I don't want to be completely isolated, though. I do like to have shops within a reasonable driving time. But yeah, I'm not someone who wants to live directly next to the town.
Yeah.
Oh, so give us a little bit of a feel then, because we've obviously heard over the weeks and months that we've been doing this a little bit about what the business community is like in Liverpool. What's the business community like in Lowestoft?
Yeah, so there's quite a lot of small businesses in Lowestoft. There's a lot of the major companies are in places like Norwich or Ipswich, but we have got a pretty good community of small to medium-sized businesses, and I also do not the same one as where I met Diane. But there's a networking event that I go to every other Thursday where local businesses meet up over a breakfast and talk about what they do. And yeah, so it's certainly getting there. I wouldn't say, that it's thriving to the extent that a city would, but we do have quite a lot of small businesses, so it's good.
All right. You might have to diversify into Lowestoft, Diane.
I know, yeah.
Yeah. Probably some hospitality businesses over there for certain. I would have thought.
Yeah.
Yes, there is.
Yeah. So
well,
Ashley,
I have to go to Recruit Ventures in Norfolk, so I've had to do that drive to Dedham a few times.
Yeah.
It's a long drive from here, but it's pretty. There's many fields to see.
I would say I've had to do that drive from a business perspective from here in Somerset a few times. It's a long way.
Yeah.
It's an awful long way. Some of the roads aren't the best on the way over, are they?
No.
So tell us a little bit about what it is that you do, Ashley.
Yeah, so I run a company called Haijahr Limited. And essentially what we do is we work for businesses to build them tools, or we work with them to create corporate sponsorship deals with charities, and then the profit that we make gets reinvested in helping other charities. And I also have started going to hospitals to give talks on our children's journeys as well. So there's one coming up, as we discussed a minute ago, that's up at the Norfolk and Norwich Hospital, and that will be going through the journey of our daughter and giving some hope to those that are currently in there. We were in there for 11 weeks, so we know how terrifying it is to be a parent in that situation. So yeah, and we'll be bringing up loads of donations for the children on the ward. So yeah.
Did this whole journey start for you because of your daughter? Is that what started it?
Yeah, so I have to admit that when I was younger, it was all about the money, and and you are a little bit selfish, especially in your 20s. Me. But yeah, when my daughter was born, it did two things really. So first of all, it showed me that life isn't a given, that you should live every day to the max, because for someone like me that's never been to hospital for anything major, have pretty much done whatever I wanted and had no real consequences to it. To see my daughter literally having to fight to survive from day one, it's a wake up call, and it says to you, the life you've been given, you need to cherish it, because you don't know if tomorrow you're going to be not here anymore, and you have to fight for every moment you're alive, I guess. So, and throughout that time as well, when I really started getting into the charity work that I do, it was because I was in a situation where I really needed help, and I had no idea that there was all this help available. And I found out things now in hindsight that I wish I would have known back when it was happening. And so what I've decided to do with my life is to channel that energy of wanting to help others, to educate others, and to give back to the community that helped us.
That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
what a great story. When you talk about tools,
Yes.
what sort of things are you talking about?
In terms of while I build tools, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm a software developer. I've been developing for over 20 years now. So basically, I provide tools that make workflows more efficient, and I also try, although I do it for businesses to earn the money I used to push back into giving back, I also try and build tools for charities at a much cheaper rate than where they get it otherwise, and that way I'm helping to amplify the mission of the charity and to get more money in, and for them to help others.
What sort of things is it that people need?
So, for example, a big one actually with the smaller charities, the smaller local charities, is that their websites aren't accessible enough to the people that they're trying to target. And so I go away and I come up with a plan to increase the accessibility on the site for them. Other areas are also like streamlining grant provision. So there are charities that offer grants to families that currently have children with critical care needs, for example. And usually it would be a manual process, lots of paperwork. So I aim to provide tools to those charities that will make their grant process fully online. And so that then helps the charity, and it also means faster outcomes for the people that need that money, that help.
You must be meeting some incredible people along the way, are you?
Yeah, I have actually. I've got to know quite a number of charities doing some really cool stuff locally. So there's a charity called Spoons. There's a charity called the Literacy Project, which aims to help children that have development delays to learn to read and write. I've been introduced to one of the operation heads at Amnesty UK. That's quite a nice contact to have, especially for the type of work that we're doing. And yeah, I've met quite a load of companies that are B certified now, that are willing to go that extra mile to help charities in their local community.
So how can a business get involved to use your services for them to capitalise how they can support charities then?
Okay, yeah. So there's many ways. There's a misconception, especially among the smaller companies, that doing corporate sponsorship deals with a charity means a long-term investment, huge amounts of money. But actually, what I do is I look to find projects for them to fund, to individual projects, and those projects could be maybe 5,000. But as part of the benefit and perk of that for the company, especially if you pick a local charity, is the media coverage that you'll get from doing that as well. So not only are you helping a local charity to do more, you're also helping to raise your reputation. You're also getting free marketing. So I believe that companies should be looking for charities in their local area, and not just because another thing that happens a lot is a business wants to sponsor a charity and they'll go to the big names. They'll go to Macmillan, or they'll go to Shelter, or they'll go to like Cancer Research UK, or even Gosh. Now, I love Gosh and I donate to Gosh myself, but they are a massive UK-wide charity researching into treatment for cancer for children. But often there are smaller charities that really do amazing work that don't get seen by the companies. And so one of the services that I provide is that I look for companies that align with the goals of that company. We look for charities that match those in the local area. A really good one to mention, and I think you put me in contact with them, Diane, was the Help Appeal. I think it was you, Help Appeal. If not, just to say what it is, they actually fund the helipads in hospitals. So you would think as a person that, you know, if I need to be rescued from the roadside, there's going to be a helipad there. They're going to be able to airlift me, get me there quickly if they can't get me there. But actually, a lot of the helipads that are attached to hospitals in the UK are funded by charities. So if it wasn't for that charity providing that funding and that help to get those helipads into hospitals, you wouldn't have that option. And if you think of where that would be used, you know, someone has broken their leg on the mountainside and can't get down to the road, or a collision involving multiple vehicles and it's backed up both sides. The only way to get out of there and to have a chance of saving your life is by being airlifted. So if that charity didn't exist, there might not be a helipad close enough, and therefore you may lose your life.
The connection broke up on me for some reason. So what was the charity that you mentioned?
The Help Appeal. Help Appeal. The Help Appeal. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right.
Yeah. It's a charity that essentially puts helipads into NHS hospitals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we do a lot of work with the Liverpool Women's Hospital, so maybe we could I could introduce you to Kate and stuff and see whether, you know.
Sure. That'd be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
And she'd be happy to have a conversation. You know, she's in my networking group. We meet every week, and we've done a lot for Cash for Kids as well. That's probably a bit more national, but we've done it for the local Liverpool stuff. So even for me, being a smaller business, I've done, you know, as much as I can, you know, to support local charities. Graham seen me in many situations trying to raise money for people. I've walked on fire, I've walked on glass, I've been Diana Ross as a pop star. Recently did Strictly Come Dancing, and then soon I'll be in it's like a women in power type of it's a beauty pageant, but not a beauty pageant, should we say, to help raise money for the women. So yeah, you know, I agree, like, you can do as much as you can, whether you're big or small. You know, as a business, you can do a lot of things, still help support, and it definitely does raise your brand and raise your visibility and raise your awareness, you know, and showcases that you're more than just making money. Does that make sense? And that's what I definitely want to be.
And it also increases morale among the staff in the company. Yeah. So you could integrate it by having like a sponsored cycle to work. do so many miles, raise money for a charity. That will then get the team. It's good for team building exercises, so it brings the team together. They're all going for the same goal as well. There's so many good things that can come out of partnering with charities.
Yeah, when I worked at McDonald's in one of my stores, we drove from Land's End to the other side. So we got the local gym to get cycle bikes. We put them on the dining area, and all the staff would go on the brakes and drive it, or we get the customers to do it. We had like 2 bikes going, so it was always happening to raise money for Haijahr, because they obviously raise money for RMHC, but Haijahr is an independent. They don't get the same collection as what RMHC does. So we all would try and raise at least £1,000 per store in the local area at a certain time of year, generally about March, April time, and you'd have like activities going on. So yeah, like we had a big map on the wall, like showing where they've gone. That was great for the store, like to do, and get involved in. So yeah, you're right there. It creates the great values you want within your own business by getting people involved and seeing that they want to do a lot more for the local community.
Ashley, tell us a little bit about how you got started in coding. What was it that interested you? Where did you pick up your coding skills?
I taught myself.
Wow.
I have to say I was a bit of a geek when I was growing up. I actually built my first computer by, I don't like to admit this now, but going through the back of our housing area and looking for old computers that people have chucked away. And so I built my first computer, which was a 486 processor. So that shows you how far back in time we're talking there. And then I was coding. I initially started doing desktop apps. So I built a music player in Visual Basic 6 at the time. And I remember my dad saying to me, "You're never going to earn any money sat on your bottom all day looking at a computer," and I ended up making money through it. So, and the first sort of commercial experience that I got, but it was still on a voluntary basis, was at the time Norfolk County Council were doing a youth service, and people could volunteer to that youth service. So I built a website for them called the GYZ, which was the Great Yarmouth Youth website, and then I ended up doing some bits for the Norfolk Blurb as well when that was still a thing. That now doesn't exist, but that was really big back when I was doing that, and then it sort of piled on from there. Really started to get noticed by companies. My first company I worked for was Focal Point Digital. They're a company that do video and photos and website production. So I did that. Then I worked for a company as the sole developer, working on a green price comparison engine. So basically, before USwitch and Go Compare was a thing, this website would compare the prices of energy between the green energy providers and the big six. And I did that until about 2011. And then I lived in Germany for 6 years after that. So I worked freelance until 2014, working for many companies in Germany, one of which was a priority booking system for theme parks. So you could order online, you'd get a QR code, you'd scan it, and it would let you go to the front of the queue, a bit like a priority boarding at an airport, for example. So that was that. And then in 2014, I decided to come back to the UK. And so I worked for PDQ Media, which works for Bloomsbury. And they do all of like the magazines and catalogue designs and stuff for them. Then I worked for an educational suppliers called Eastpoint, and I built their intranet system. So where they dealt with returns, for example, printing labels for delivery, integrating into their third-party systems like NetSuite. Then I worked for Angling Direct, which is a huge fishing company. So they're an online fishing company that also have stores in the UK. And then I worked for 15 Gifts, which is a company that does personalised recommendations for telephone and broadband packages for the big suppliers like Vodafone, EE, and Verizon, for which was where I was working. So yeah.
So yeah, you've really been through the gamut when it comes to your experience there. It's interesting though, because right back at where you started there, you were kind of exposed to how tech could be used for good, right from the sort of first project that you were involved with. So do you feel like a seed was planted quite early on?
Yeah, a seed was planted quite early on that I'd like to help in some way my local community. So that was shown through obviously the volunteering. I really enjoyed doing that. And at the time I was living at home, so money wasn't even an object at that point. It was when I left home that sort of took a back seat. So I left home at 17 under not great circumstances with my parents at the time, and I got into debt, which obviously wasn't good. So I think that's what stalled it a little bit for me. And then when my daughter was born, it rekindled that, and then obviously it also gave me, instead of just a general like I want to help communities, but who do I want to help? That who came into the field. I want to help people that have been through similar things to me, where I have that experience that I can share with them, that experience and knowledge.
Do you want to explain to Graham where the name Haijahr comes from?
Yeah, so yeah, everyone asks me that because it's also spelt a bit weird for most people as well. But Haijahr is the way that up until very recently, my son used to refer to me as. So he would never say dad, he'd never say papa. He'd just always scream Haijahr, Haijahr, Haijahr. And so when I was thinking of a company name, because obviously a lot of the words that you would instantly associate with a business are already taken. Even if they're not active, someone's just registered it with Companies House so that you can't take that name because they'll then put in a claim that you're taking their or using their company. So I needed something unique. And so I thought, yeah, let's do Haijahr. And then when it came to spelling, because I'm English, my wife is German, I decided to use a hybrid of a phonetic way of saying Haijahr between the English and German language, and that's where it comes from. So the J in German is spelt like is pronounced like a Y in.
Yeah. So can the kids speak German?
So my daughter understands German, but because she now goes to school, everyone talks to her in English. She doesn't see the point in speaking it, so she doesn't really speak it, but she'll understand it. On the other side, though, my son, because he spent the first 2 years of his life in hospital and his mother was there every day, and I was here looking after our daughter, he's learned more to speak in German. So if he wants to say no, he'll say nine, because that's just because he's been around his mother, and his mother will speak German to the kids. I'll speak English to the kids. So yeah, that's just how it happened. But I think that eventually they'll both be completely bilingual.
That's great though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I did German at school. Yeah, it's a tough language at times, but
it also gives them more opportunities, because they could say to us when they leave school, I want to go pursue a career in Germany, and because they've got their mother's nationality as well, there's nothing stopping them from getting on a plane and realizing that after Brexit. I had it lucky that when I went over there, we were still within the European Union, and so I was able to live and work there without visas or anything. But for them, it's really good that they have this, so that they can do that as well.
Did you speak German before you went to Germany, or?
Kind of. It was really bad German, but so the story was how I met my wife was that I was learning German in Brighton when I was going to school in Brighton, but unfortunately the school I moved to in Norfolk didn't teach German. So after I left school, I employed a private German teacher to teach me German, because I was heading for a B back in the day, the qualification. So I really wanted to continue that. And she recommended that I go onto a website that it still exists but isn't used anymore really, but called My Language Exchange. And it's where people in the country where you're trying to learn their language, that are trying to learn yours, and you can come together and you'll be assigned a task, and you've got to do it in their language, they've got to do it in your language, and then you have to sort of, critique or what have you. And that's where I met my now wife, and that's why I ended up moving to Germany. By the time I left Germany, I was very good in German. I could hold a conversation, I could understand everything. I appeared on a German radio station once talking about why I came to Germany, the reasons for coming. But now that I've been back in the UK from 2014, I still understand it all, but with talking I struggle now, because language is like a tool. If you use it, you'll remember it. If you don't, you'll lose it. Your brain doesn't want to retain that information, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, absolutely it does. You're full of stories.
Yeah.
I am, yes.
Yeah, really interesting that, actually. So was it scary going over to Germany, like making that move to go and meet your wife, obviously, in person and things?
It was scary, and it was a leap of faith. We'd met in like the September before I moved over there, and I ended up moving over there to be with her in the April of 2009. So in 2008, in September, we first had a conversation, and by April 2009, I was flying over to live with her and her family.
Oh.
The reason it moved so fast is, I think, in life there are little things that catch you off guard and intrigue you to the point that you then things start to go really quickly after that. So what it was with my wife was, you'd write these emails to the people that you wanted to have these discussions with, and it usually went along the lines of, hello, I'm such and such, I'm from here, I really want to learn your language, give me, if you can give me your email address. And at the time it was MSN, we'll start the ball rolling, essentially. And usually you get a response back saying, yeah, this is my email address, fine, let's start on Monday or what have you. But my wife wrote back saying, no, what's your email address? And it seems weird, doesn't it? But maybe she wanted to find out from the email address whether I was a decent person or not, because you can tell a lot about someone through what their email address is. So that's what hooked me. And then when I then started talking to her,
like Spiderman925.com.
Sorry,
you know, something like Spiderman925.
Well, that's the thing. Back in the day, this
Yeah.
is before like everyone had like a professional business type email address, even personally. Everybody had like pretty weird email addresses.
Yeah.
really weird email addresses, yeah. And some of them you wouldn't want to have asked you what was your email address for this account.
Do you know when I register candidates, you can see some emails, and I do joke, I go, oh, I wish that's different when you were a kid, and they're like, yeah, I love it for me, just have my name and my date of birth, and that was it. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
nowadays my email address is just my name at a provider. But
yeah.
in the past, it was, I had one that was Wonderful Notion. Like, what? I sometimes question my choice of emails back then, but
Yeah.
but yeah. Anyway, so we moved on to Skype, and I instantly fell in love with her from the first chat we had on Skype. Then she came over. It was her birthday wish to come over and see me. So she flew over, and her parents didn't know what to expect, so they gave her an emergency credit card and an address in London should she be stood up at the airport.
Oh,
But she wasn't. We had a lovely week together, took lots of photos together, and then on the way back, a child. Now, I'm reciting what my wife said at the time, so I might get a little bit of the detail wrong, but essentially a kid said goodbye England or something. And she cried the whole flight home. Her parents, when they first saw her, thought, what the heck has this guy done to her? All red-eyed. And then she went to see a showing of Tarzan at the Hamburg Theatre. And she started getting emotional because Tarzan and Jane were apart and couldn't be together. So I asked my boss at the time whether he had any objections to me working from Germany, and he said no. So I took the leap of faith.
back then, Ashley, as well, like it wasn't very known to work remote, so that's good that they were very innovative to allow you to do that.
Yeah, he was very accommodating. Yeah, he was such a great guy. He's moved back to Canada now, but yeah, he owned a company called EcoSwitch, and they were the ones that built the price comparison site at the time for the green energy. So yeah,
yeah.
So
and
remote,
the rest is
remote
history.
working before remote working existed, really, or
Yeah.
or
Yeah, it
most
was.
people were doing it. Yeah. So you almost like a first digital nomad, which was
I was. Yeah, you could say that. I never thought of it that way, but you could say that. Yeah.
No, that's brilliant. What's the big sort of goal for you with all of this that you're doing? What's the vision for the future of this?
Okay, so the vision is to help as many local, small, medium charities as possible through corporate sponsorship, but also a more personal goal. If you were to ask me why I'm doing this in the first place and what I want to be doing later on in life when I've got the money to retire, is to go around the country giving talks at hospitals. If they're NICU hospitals, to talk about my daughter's journey, and if they're cardiac babies, to talk about my son's journey, and to help those people. So, for an example of how I'm already implementing that, there's a mother in Scotland at the moment. She's got a 29-weeker who suffered a collapsed lung, blood on the brain, etc., and has had 13 operations. And I sent up £100 worth of donations of things that she needed to survive, and I'm in conversation with her. And if she needs, like she's told me on occasions that she hasn't eaten very well. If she needs something, then I'm there for her. So I basically want to use whatever money I make outside of my living expenses, I want to give back to people and help those in need.
Oh, that's really admirable, Ashley.
It really is. It really is. What's the biggest thing that you think that tech can help with in this situation?
Well, nowadays, I mean, the biggest thing is social media, isn't it? So everybody's online. So if you want to get the word out of your charity and stuff, it's either through a really cool website that everyone finds easy to use, that's easy accessible, or through advertising, because the bigger charities, Like if you go to, there's like a service from Facebook called Facebook Ads Library. And if you search for revenue spend for charities, you'll see the big names up there, and they're spending like 600, 700,000 a month on getting their name out. And people ask, well, why are they doing that? Shouldn't they be spending that on the thing? But the thing is, the return they get from that ad spend is 3-4 times the amount they're actually spending. So if you think they're spending 600 grand, they're making millions to be able to help others. But the problem is with that system that we got, the smaller charities and the medium-sized charities, which often do really hyper-targeted good work in local communities, they're not being seen, because these big charities are able to invest all of this money, and they haven't got that money even as a budget for the year, let alone to pay on advertising. So the best way is to create tools for their website that helps get their website seen. So improving their search rank in Google and other search engines, and to also help them effectively target the right customers on social media. So reduce their overall costs so that they can do all the good stuff they're doing, but still raise awareness.
That's brilliant. It's about creating community, isn't it, as well?
It is, yes. Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah. So if people are listening to this, how can they help you?
Okay, so if you're a company and you really want to help your local community and save a bit of money on tax at the same time, because I know that's very important to businesses, especially small businesses, then to reach out to me and I can help them sponsor with a local charity that aligns with their values and goals. If you're a family member who has had a child either in the NICU or the CICU, I'm currently recording a podcast where families come on and we talk about our experiences together. If you're a supermarket, like the likes of Asda or Tesco's, Morrison's, I'm already doing some collaboration with. But if you have community programs and you want to donate nappies, wipes, stuff for the parents that are going through this with their children, then get in contact with me that way. You'll also get your logo on any material that I hand out. So it's you're helping the community, but you're also I'm also letting people know that it's from you. If there are any companies that offer software as a service that can offer reduced rates for charities, then please get in contact with me as well.
No, thank you, Ashley. It's been fascinating listening to you today.
Yeah.
All of the different stories from, I asked you a question like, tell us about how you ended up in Lowestoft, and there's this whole story that comes out of it. We ask you a question about, what your German's like, and then you tell us how you meet your wife on a website, and then end up flying. Yeah, it's just brilliant.
Yeah.
And that though, meeting your wife like online, it wasn't really a done thing either. Then like a lot of people do it now. So you've obviously always been very technically advanced when it comes to situations like that. Yeah.
Yeah. We weren't looking for each other.
Yeah.
We found each other. That's the difference, and I think that's what's held us together all these years. We weren't going out trying to find someone to be with. We actually connected on a different level, and it ended up being like that. So
you see, this is where all of these modern dating apps have probably gone wrong. You see, you shouldn't be like swiping left or right or whatever. You should be trying to do something like learn a language and then just find somebody, right?
Yeah, find someone that shares your passion and goals and sticks by you.
Yeah, if you did it where maybe that's what you should make next, actually, is not a dating app as such, but a community app of, because I see a lot on social media, people feel, alone, like there's nobody to speak to, so, there's not stuff to do. So if you maybe made like a community of, come here and learn how to do X, Y, and Z. You know, it might attract people, and then they're getting a different sense of community, you know, feel like whatever it may be. You know, it could be drawing, it could be making things online, it could be doing whatever. Does that make sense? But yeah.
Yeah,
and
no,
then,
that makes total sense.
Yeah.
I think that's actually really necessary these days. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, we live in a world where we can now talk to people on the other side of the planet, and quite often do, and yet we probably don't know anyone in our street.
Yeah. And the thing is with that is that we as human beings, we've evolved to become more intelligent, some would say, and we've got all these tools at our fingertips, but our bodies haven't evolved as quickly as the technology and everything else. And we are still at a very bare level. We're creatures of community. We want to feel wanted. We want to have a common purpose with our neighbours. And sometimes, and that's probably why we've got this spike in mental health, to be honest, because everyone is literally doom scrolling, for want of a better word. We're chasing after likes. We're chasing after, sort of like, what's the word that I want to say? It's we want confirmation from the world that we're part of the. How do I put this?
It's affirmation,
isn't it? Affirmation,
yeah, confirmation from too many people. I remember when I was growing up, and this was when dial-up was just coming out. So we didn't have all these social networks, and we only had to impress our class or maybe the people in the playground. And now we're having to impress the entire world. And if someone gives a negative comment, we instantly start getting depressed and sad, and it's just not right. We need to get out and do things as a community.
Well, you're definitely getting out and doing
things,
Ashley, and that's fantastic. And I'm sure that the people listening to this will want to connect with you and actually help you in that endeavor to do that, because there's some great people out there, actually.
Yeah, there are. There's some really good people out there.
Yeah. This has been a great conversation, hasn't it, Diane?
What is your website, your contact details for people to get you hold of you?
So my website is www.haijahr.com, and that is Haijahr. So Haijahr.com. That will contain my phone number, email, how to get in contact with me. I'm also on the socials. So I'm on TikTok as Papa Haijahr, if anyone wants to add me on TikTok. LinkedIn, I'm not sure, should I think you can get to my LinkedIn on my website anyway, so I'm not sure I need to go further than that. But yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on TikTok, so yeah, that's where you can find me.
That's brilliant. Let's hope people do that. Folks, this has been Ashley Johnson. I hope you've enjoyed that conversation with Ashley today. If you want to know more, we will get some links from him, and we'll put them in and around this podcast as it goes out in a few weeks' time. Thank you for listening. Thanks to Ashley. Thanks to Diane. And we will be back soon with another DCT podcast. But until then, thanks for listening. Bye for now.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.